Okay, so I want to talk about um, inspirational or positivity uh, type of angle that a lot of people have. Uh, Go do it. Just do it. Chase your dreams. Um, you can do it. Look at me, I can do it, and so can you. And this whole idea is so deeply destructive. Um, I like the idea. I like the meaning behind it. If it's the way it's presented, at least. Um, it's pretty inspirational. Maybe it gets people to actually, go out and try to live life the way they want to, right? And a part of that message is really good, really positive. But the problem with affirming things like that is it fails to realize that there are different types of people. There are different people with different unique individual problems. And this whole idea of um, all I needed to do was just do it, and wow, I managed to pull it off, and you could be just like me, is incredibly toxic because it fails to reconcile the differences between people. For example, if I just tell you, you want to do a test? Just take the test. Except for I'm an expert in the field, or um, I have the things that would, I have the prerequisites that would allow me to dominate in this test, and you don't. And I'm saying just go and do this test. Yes, that is useful in a sense that you'll get a reality check and you'll see how weak you are, and in that context, yes, absolutely go and get reality checked and see how fucking shit you fail it, and then work from there. Very important, very useful. Fail fast. That I subscribe to that idea. Very positive. Um, what I don't subscribe to is this idea of after you do that, forcing it. And a lot of these ideas do push past this boundary for me, or cross this line, where they're, how should I say, generally, who's the people saying it? It's usually people that have found some success, or at least believe, or have observed other people, and they believe that it's just a matter of doing. And the reality is, it's not as simple as that. Imagine if I were to tell you, yeah, it's a race, and you just need to train and win for the race, but someone has like, I don't know, like a broken foot or something that they can't even train for the race for. And if they try to run with their broken foot, they're only gonna get more permanent damage and break themselves further and prevent themselves from healing. And um, hell, maybe it will escalate their injury to a more permanent one or something like that. So, and why am I bringing up that example? I think it's exactly the same with pushing yourself. Yes, push yourself, but never beyond the point which you are ready for currently. And what I think a lot of people in the space or say this fail to realize is that if you need to tell something like just do it to someone, and saying that repeatedly doesn't seem to have positive effect, it's like, oh, oh wait, I have free will. I didn't realize I had free will. Now I'm gonna be a billionaire. Like if that uh, randomly doesn't work, just saying over and over, just do it, isn't going to change. Um, isn't going to have any effect. It's actually gonna very quickly become toxic because the reason they are failing or incapable of achieving things is very unlikely that they just haven't realized they had free will. It's very unlikely. It's most likely that they have realized they got free will and have attempted many times and failed and failed and failed, and then they've gotten to a point where they're almost uh, coming to this realization of holy fuck, it's not working. And at which point, if you just keep screaming, just do it, that's not gonna help them. The problem isn't lack of effort and this hustle culture. That's completely retarded. You can't hustle your way out of complex issues. You just can't. As much as you would love to do that, generally that is characterized by extreme avoidance and unless you are extremely lucky where your configuration is already like that, that is never going to work. It's going to work for the select few, and you're going to point to those select few as examples that prove your point. No, that is stupid. You have told someone who has a Lamborghini that is perfectly functional, and it has fuel and everything, and then you're like, just go, just do it, and then it starts up, and it perfectly runs, and then it gets to where it wants to go, right? And then if you say that same thing to a fucking Lada that has half of its parts missing, and when you try to start it, it fucking doesn't even respond. And the course of action to get that Lada to from point A to point B that is broken isn't a matter of just starting the car and driving. There's a whole extra step reassembling reassembly that needs to take place. If you really I saw like an idea on this recently about depression or whatever and how it's could actually be justified from an evolutionary perspective where you just ruminate on complex issues and you reflect on things a lot. I thought about that and that actually kind of checks out. Um, and checks out with the previous idea I've said. Nothing is irrational. Um, all behaviors are in one way or another trying to resolve the core issues that you have. So like fundamentally what is depression? It's like an inability to resolve the meaning of your life. And what do? You try to reflect and reflect and reflect until you finally can compute it or come to something that you're happy with for the time being. Um, and like everything else is just how should I say your system's way of encouraging that. It's like you go energy saver mode, you don't feel like doing anything. All of those things are to encourage you to sit down and figure out what the fuck is wrong. And by trying to resist that, let's say you are in the state and you have a lot of shit to resolve, and you're gonna be like, no, I must Sigma male grind set my way into doing this. Um, you aren't going to see any results. You're going to maybe see some short-term results at the cost of some potentially permanent damage. Uh, if you're really unlucky, maybe very severe permanent damage. If you're extremely lucky, maybe uh, I don't know. Basically, nothing was wrong with you, and something pops off. Then yeah, maybe it resolves itself. But that is very unlikely. Um, it is possible though. Okay, so what's the point I'm trying to say? Don't go just do it positivity just do it like I see this a lot with ADHD like uh a common argument I see people making that have ADHD and have discussed this with me, is that you can't brute force through it. Yeah, and you shouldn't even try to. And the reason why, how should I say, a healthy person will look at person with ADHD, not comprehend the kind of issues that they're struggling, and then project their own view of like, well, I just feel happy all the time, so you should just feel too. Look how beautiful the world is. Isn't that enough to make you happy? And like the root problem is, yes, uh, if I had the same configuration as you, if I had the same car as you, driving would work. But I don't, and that's the root of my issue. And failing to realize that yields to ineffective effort. So this whole idea of like trying to brute force for your ADHD, of course it doesn't fucking work, and it never was going to. And a lot of ADHD people use that almost as an excuse or as a talking point whenever you talk to them about how should I say? I think they use it as an excuse to themselves to justify their lack of progress. The reality is their lack of progress isn't because, well, yes, it's also because doing the things that the retards are telling them to do isn't going to work. Of course, it's never going to work. I've explained with the car problem. Um, but they're also using that as a justification to not do the things that could potentially work. And in the case of ADHD, what are the things that could potentially work? Maybe reviewing your workflow instead of trying to beat your ADHD, find a way to use it. Because let's be honest, if you've had it for years, if you had it for all of your life, do you think you're going to be able to just one day turn it off? No, and if anything, it might take you years to fucking shift to see even the slightest differences. So, um, like this idea that you can just make it disappear is kind of delusional. This idea that you can fight with it is also delusional. Because how should I say? Whatever. I'm not gonna explain. Don't care. Uh, right. So let's say, okay, don't fight it and try to play into it. What else could you do? You could try to maybe reflect on, instead of thinking of it as a, fuck it, I don't want to make it about ADHD. It's just not interesting to me specifically right now. I want to make a general point, and the general point is something like trying is completely futile in certain situations, and that does not justify hopelessness and helplessness. Instead, it justifies trying something different or a reconstruction of your system. So, for example, you have observed yourself to have a certain defect within yourself, and because of that defect, you cannot act the way you would want to be able to act. Let's say you can't concentrate or something. And the course of action of trying to fight against it has been unsuccessful. So instead, you should look into how to resolve that defect at its core, at its foundation. Maybe understand the defect. Maybe the problem wasn't even in that you are faulty. Maybe you are doing the things that you generally can't sustain engagement for. Maybe you are in the wrong room. Maybe you're the right person, but in the wrong room. Maybe with a different configuration, different surroundings, even without changing yourself even a little bit, you could work or engage with things in a completely different way. And then you wouldn't have any problems. Have you considered that? Uh, and or let's assume that there is something wrong with you. Let's say that in every given context, you will always find a way of stalling out, which is common for most people, I would say. Um, then in that case, you should try to figure out why you're stalling out and what makes you like go boom, if that makes sense. What makes you uh, want to drive and what makes you lose that drive before you go full speed. And cut expectations for yourself. Um, for example, uh, I would say I'm right now, I'm in this sort of hole. I've kind of dug myself into it like 2 years ago, or over a long period of time before 2 years, but it crashed 2 years ago. And um, even today, I'm still not far from. I'm still not where I want to be in terms of who I am, and I'm gradually learning more and more things, figuring out more and more things, and getting rid of all of the things that initially caused the crash to begin with. And the temptation initially was, how should I say, I was very impatient. I was always trying to, the moment something is a little bit working, then I would just fucking go full speed and then run it into the ground. Like run it into a wall, and then it would very painfully explode, and then I would be like a cripple for another couple of months, like completely dysfunctional. Even now, it's kind of the same thing is happening. Even last few weeks, I've gotten like an insane wave of drive, and then I pushed myself, and right now I'm finding myself again completely driveless, completely CBA doing anything. Um, Even though I pushed myself much less and I stopped much faster. And that, the fact that I stopped and gave up so quickly, uh, is what's going to allow me to recover much faster this time compared to before. Before I would have tried to force through it, and eventually, when I can't keep going anymore, then I would have stopped. Here, I still did it to some extent. I just can't fully get rid of this behavior yet. Plus, I had a lot of like deadlines or whatever dependence on me, and I wanted to fulfill those. But I would generally avoid that as much as possible. Because if you are struggling with something and feels like you're going to die doing it, you probably don't have the necessary preparation to pull it off. You need to be able to split um, this positive pain that grows you and pain that is like too much and is destroying you. You need to be able to learn what the difference between those are. If you, and for me, the main indicator is, do I feel optimistic about the activity? If I feel like engaged and optimistic as I'm working on it, then generally it is pain that is worth overcoming. If my desire to do something is getting drained and I'm starting to feel apathetic towards it, that means the time has come. The time has run out. I have exhausted my resource, and anything beyond that is going to cause damage. Um, so please, for the love of God, do not uh, do not listen to this. Just do it. It just like be real with yourself. Don't try to force other what works for other people. Do not compare yourself to other people. That is incredibly self-destructive because it's like you're a Lada and someone's a Lambo. That might be painful for you to admit, but that is reality. And if you try to live your life as if you're a Lambo, uh, you're breaking yourself. You're killing yourself. And the same, okay, let's say you're not a ladder. Let's say you're a 4x4 or something, right? Let's say you're a Lambo and someone else is a 4x4 and they can navigate different environments better, and you can't because you're a Lambo built for fucking roads. The same kind of applies. It's not that one is superior to another. It's some are more adapted to some situations than others, and you should understand those differences and work with them. Clearly, if you need a fucking um pep talk all the time for every single attempt, you are running on borrowed resources, and borrowed resources are borrowed time. Eventually, they're gonna run out, and when it runs out, you're gonna enter hell. At least what I consider to be hell. So be very cautious of this. Too much positivity, too much optimism leads to delusion, and this delusion can break you or cause you to make a set of actions or decisions that will break you. Um, and that doesn't mean give up all hope, become doomer. Like that's also stupid. It's work with what you have and gradually improve within the realms that are available to you. And yeah, it sucks that it takes so long. But it's like, what can you do about it? Like, what else is the alternative? You don't have a choice. That's the worst part. You really don't have a choice. Like, I would love to fucking just self-delete and then restart with completely new attributes and just keep refreshing until I get ones that aren't fucked. But I don't have that choice. I've only one run. So we gotta work with what we have. And it is what it is. And in general, again, it's another like result of subscribing to aesthetics. We want to fulfill an aesthetic so much that we try to kind of bend our perception of ourselves into something that could comply with that aesthetic, which it just doesn't work. You can't just willpower your Lada into being a Lambo. It just doesn't work. It maybe can bend it a little bit, but it's gonna come at a greater cost, much greater cost. And if you're struggling with these kind of things, even a little bit now, you're starting to see the fucking tires shaking or whatever the fuck, the chassis bending. Stop immediately. Yeah, okay, I am reiterating my point. Honestly, the point is super simple. Um, I love the people giving this advice as in terms of personality, but I hate the way they present it, and I hate the impact that it has. I think it's inherently destructive and fundamentally misplaced. This whole idea of just do it is so stupid. It's a self-projection, and I hate when people self-project because almost everything is a projection, self-projection. Like almost everything. Like when you start looking at things, you will realize that almost everything is a self-projection. It's very rarely anything is outside of that because generally people don't have intelligence to be able to consider experiences in an objective way, in a non-biased way. Even what I'm telling you is probably a self-projection to some degree that I'm not aware of. Who knows? I don't know. But whatever.